Welcome to ACM. We're in Edinburgh, United Kingdom today, and our guest is Chi Vo. Chi's a Vietnamese-British artist and designer, born in Ho Chi Minh City and raised in Vietnam, England, and Scotland. She was named after a mushroom by her family, hoping for her to have a peaceful life and a clear career vision. However, everything changed after she moved to the UK at the age of 12. There, she developed a deep interest in art and design, prompting her Vietnamese grandfather to ask, "So you make propagandas for the state?" Recently, Chi left her job in London to spend time exploring East and Southeast Asia, aiming to reconnect with her roots and discover her next steps. In this 6th episode, Chi and I discussed her interest in art and design, her recent journey through Korea, China, Bhutan, Thailand, and Vietnam, and her upbringing in both Southeast Asia and the UK. If you wish to watch our visual podcast in full, find us at Asian Changemakers on YouTube. Here is Chi Vo. So, welcome, Chi.
Thank you.
Like a Chi.
Like
that kind of Chi, right? So your Korean name will be Ki. Because Chi means Ki. Is that the reason why your name is Chi?
Energy?
Yeah.
No. So my full name, with the middle name, my name is Lin Chi. And Lin Chi is a type of mushroom. And it's meant to help the immune system of only humans and bees when you take it. With the intention of, my parents wanted me to become a doctor when I grow up, because they are doctors. And to carry on their, line of work. They're proud of what they do. That's what I feel. So I think it's a really nice name, and it's a calming name. It's just mushrooms. There can be a lot of other types of medication. Like my sister, her name is also a type of medicine, but to get rid of ghosts. So I think I have a better deal here.
Is that rooted in Mandarin, the name Linji? I have a Chinese friend called Linji.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I know the name of the mushroom in Mandarin, but I'm not sure if the roots is it. I think Vietnam went through a huge history time where it was colonized by China for like 1,000 years, I think.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a link.
Very well.
But Chi on its own in Vietnamese just means what.
What?
Yeah, like
Chi.
What? Yes. So when I was younger, there were people making fun. They were saying, "What's your name?" And they're like, "Oh, my name is what?" And it's just like this loop. And I'm like, "Can you stop?"
My name is you. What is your name? My name is me. Not. You know that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rush Hour. Okay. Well, the item of the day, your item that you brought, is actually an item you're wearing at this very moment.
Yes.
So therefore, we have this little plant. This is not your item.
No.
So what is your item that you've brought for us today?
My item is my own pair of glasses that I use it every day. And when, you approach me asking, bring an item that kind of shows your identity. And so I was thinking, like, what does identity means, An identity is how other people perceive who you are and how you're trying to convey who you are to the world. And there's two meanings to it, I think. One part is who you want to convey to the world, and the glasses is what I chose to wear. This is like what matched me, what matched my personality. But also you heard things like identity card, where you carry it around to show who you are as a person and being accepted into society. And I think this pair of glasses, I've been wearing it a lot, and a lot of people was like, "Oh, I think without the glasses I wouldn't recognize you on the street just like walking down," because it's so iconic. And also with this pair of glasses, I also made a lot of friends. They're like, "Oh, that's so cool." And I randomly found someone at the Singapore airport having the same pair of glasses. The first time ever I've met a person with the same pair of glasses. We're like, immediately there's this intimacy of like, recognizing the same aesthetic, You're like, you found your tribe in the middle of, a country that you've not been to. So I thought that was quite interesting. And I think it's really convey my identity.
Well, when did you get these glasses? And where?
I think I bought it first online, I think a few years ago. Can't remember exactly when. But I think when I look back at my old photos, when I didn't have this pair of glasses, I was like, who is this? Before I had this like Asian accountant pair of glasses, the thin strips ones. And I'm like, who is this? I don't recognize this person. And so that's when I realized, actually, I think this helps me to kind of build this new identity. And I think the term identity, it can be change in a way. Like today you would identify yourself as this person, and maybe in 5 years time you look back and you're like, oh, I have a different identity now. So
you've recently done a 3-month journey around Asia, right?
Yes, around 3
so
months.
Perhaps we can talk about that, and then we can start tracing back a little bit. So tell us about your journey in Asia and why you went on that journey.
I think why is a good place to start.
Okay.
Because before the trip, I was working in a corporate job. And when I just reach, kind of what people say potentially is a quarter life crisis when you're when you start to think, oh, who am I as a person? What am I here for? What should I do? What are my talents? How should I contribute to society, and etc. And I realized what I was doing, it fulfills that question partially, but not fully, and not because the job wasn't fulfilling. It's more because I don't think I fully know who I am as a person yet. And so that's why I decided to take this trip back to my roots, I would say, because I was born in Asia. And partially I was denying the fact that I was Asian sometimes. When I came home, a lot of people start speaking English, and because now I think in English, but the first language I was educated with is Vietnamese. And so I was trying to find that roots again. So the journey started in Seoul, in South Korea, and then I went
where we met very briefly,
very
right?
briefly,
30 minutes,
yeah.
The day before I was flying out.
And Juno was very convincing in bringing me into the podcast. That's the whole
Well,
conversation.
you said that, yes, but only after you've completed that journey. And I haven't really asked you anything about that journey. So this is
all new to you.
Completely all new to me as well.
So after Seoul, it was freezing. I don't know how.
So yeah.
Yes, it was snowing. It was so cold.
It's so beautiful though.
Yeah, and most people didn't speak English when I was like trying to get my luggages out and things like that. And I only know one phrase in Korean that I learned from K-dramas after watching for 12 years. Well, I keep saying 안녕하세요, but then both goodbye and hello and thank you and everything.
You don't say 안녕하세요 when you're saying goodbye. You could say 안녕, but yeah, 안녕하세요 is like the formal tone. So that's only used when you actually greet somebody, when you say hi. When you say bye, though, so the informal tone is 안녕. And then you can say 안녕 when you say bye, but you can't say 안녕하세요 as a formal tone to say goodbye. It's so complicated, I don't know why. So you usually say 안녕히 가세요, 안녕히 계세요. It's like, how to explain it? It's so...
I need education, that's what it means. Yes. And I wish just one coach driver would stop me and just say, stop saying that, but no one did, and everyone was super polite, and so I felt really bad. But
was that your first time in Korea?
No, it wasn't. The first time was when I traveled with my family, and we had like a tour guide to deal with the language barriers and everything. And this time I went with a friend, and he didn't know any Korean either. So it was a fun experience. Yeah. And then in Korea, we travel a lot. We saw the DMZ zone and a lot of really cool coffee shops, I must say. A lot of cool concepts, very creative. And
How
now,
many years had it been when you since you last visited Seoul?
Probably 5-6 years.
Okay, so decent amount of changes.
Yeah, I would say so. I think the landscape in terms of infrastructure and etc. was still quite similar to how I remembered it, but the shop's completely different. And like the creativity and the thoughtfulness that's gone into building these. Even it's like a fashion shop, and it's like a catwalk. It's like you go into a museum. You know, it was very cool. And then in Korea, we also went to a what was it? K Tarot fortune teller.
Okay,
and that was a very interesting experience. And she was literally
Myeongdong.
Well, no, we went, I think, 15 minutes outside of Central Seoul to meet this woman in a random coffee shop.
Oh, in a coffee shop.
Yeah, and I was watching K-dramas a lot, and then seeing this fortune tellers like scammers and stuff in coffee shops and telling you this and you need to pay for that and etc. It was hilarious, but no, she was really genuine. She was very nice. She was very fidgety and spoke very fast. I've never met anyone else who speak faster than me. And
you don't speak fast.
I think so. My mom always scolded me for speaking too fast.
Okay.
And give off this sense of nervousness. And I think she was nervous too. But it was a very different experience that I've had. And then after that, we left for Beijing, and then carried on to Xi'an.
Okay.
And then Shanghai, and that's where I finished my China roots. And then I went to Thailand to volunteer for 2 weeks.
So how many days each place?
So we stayed in Seoul for 6-7 days, so 1 week, and then China was a week and a half, and then I was in Thailand for 2 weeks.
How was that going from Korea to China? You were in Seoul for 6 days, then you went to China, and you were in several cities. Which are the cities you were in China? Beijing,
Xi'an, and Shanghai. Yeah.
How was it going from Korea to China?
It was different, and it was strange because I think because I had some certain expectations when this was my first time ever in China.
Yeah.
And Korea is very famous for the high tech. Everything is based off technology. But China was on another level. Like everything we order on via WeChat, and I need to get someone else to scan and permit me to use WeChat and all of this stuff. And everything was in Mandarin. So I use Google Translate a lot. And yeah, so I didn't expect China to grow so much technological wise. Maybe because it was COVID recently. Everything was paid by card, everything ordered via phones. It was very convenient if you know how to do it. Everything is just a click away. Yeah. I was just so impressed by amazing dancing on the street of Beijing.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
they're so confident, and men were wearing skirts, and it was very dainty and flaunty for the
Really?
dance because it was
Wow.
appropriate. And people do this for exercise. I saw that in Vietnam too.
You sure it wasn't Tai Chi?
No, it wasn't Tai Chi. It was with music, and they all, very.
I used to do it in America, in my boarding school, wearing yellow like silk martial arts clothing with my Chinese teacher, in like middle of a like a lawn just by the barn in my school, with a sword. Oh, it's great meditation.
Do you think looking back, do you think that it was appropriate? Or do you think that,
appropriate?
Yeah. Or do you think that it was very inappropriate and you felt, they shouldn't
You mean appropriate
be doing?
in terms of culturally to do something like that in America, or what do you mean? Appropriate for my liking?
Appropriate for your liking.
No, it was beautiful.
It was funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of embracing that embarrassment, I think it's good for you, like being able to transmute the outer energy and just focus on your inner core and like do Tai Chi, and despite all the bystanders and students laughing, like you sort of just focus on yourself, and I think that in and of itself is a good mindset to train. My uncle did martial arts in China for a long time, and he would take me, actually the first time I went to Hongdae, and probably the last time I ever went to Hongdae, it was with my uncle, and he told me that, oh, you're too sensitive, your energy is like dispersed, and he said, come. And then we went to the middle of the a busy street in Hongdae, and he made me do like some sort of a chi movement with him, like in the middle of thousands of people walking past by. I was so embarrassed, and he's like, you have to train yourself not to be embarrassed despite the energy, the outer energy, and just focus on your core. And as embarrassing and weird that sounds, it was really good for me. It was really good. So it's a similar thing, like when you do Tai Chi, and it's also meditation. You're not gonna hurt somebody with Tai Chi moves. If someone tells you do Tai Chi and I'm dangerous, it's not, it may be dangerous in the mind. That's what I would say about Tai Chi. Sorry to digress. Going back to Asia. So Shanghai and Beijing, did you notice any differences in terms of as a tourist or as a person experiencing the culture there?
Beijing was a lot more traditional in terms of architecture.
Okay.
Shanghai, very high skyscrapers, and then in the middle there's like an old ancient town that would, I don't know, because I grew up in the UK, that would be called Chinatown, in Shanghai. I feel, in terms of aesthetic, in terms of the structures, in terms of tiny little shops and in small tiny leeways, right next to huge high skyscrapers, and I think that was an interesting mix of the old and the new. So
this was in Beijing.
This was in Shanghai.
Oh, sorry, Shanghai.
Yeah, this was in Shanghai. The roads were huge in Beijing, and I don't think I fully explore China. I think I got a sample test of China. Because
you got sick.
Yeah.
What happened there?
I got sick. I was sick in Seoul.
Really?
Yeah. Whenever I fly around too often, I think because the way that I schedule thing was too packed. My body need to cope with the times difference and the food, the air, the pollution, and all the new things. So, and I was very stressed out before I left because I was working on many master's applications to see where life is heading. Because I was still I very much thought that the holiday was a holiday, and then after that I would need to come back to reality, and then what do I do? I don't want to be jobless, I don't want to be unuseful to society, so I was very stressed out before I left for the trip, and I think that took a toll on my body, and I was coughing, I was sneezing, I was sore throat, high fevers constantly, needing to get antibiotics from the hospitals, and but then I thought, what are the chances of going to a hospital in Shanghai if I was just a tourist?
So embrace that.
Might as well not enjoy the experience, but
anthropological experience.
And even that, they were so high tech. When I tried to get my medication, all of the names were presented on the board,
Chinese characters.
Well, my name particularly wasn't Chinese character. I was the only person with a non-Chinese character.
They should just put like the Tai Chi emblem. And then VO.
I wish my name was that, but no, my name resembles something else. Yes.
So you went from Korea to China. And then China to
China to Thailand.
Thailand.
Thailand to Bhutan.
Okay.
Bhutan to Vietnam.
Okay.
And then Vietnam back to Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should have clarified that initially, that your itinerary. But now here we are. Bhutan is not an easy place to go with. You need like a specific visa or a special permission.
Yeah, so I signed up for like a tour, but I had my private tour guide and driver. So they were so friendly, so lovely, and they accommodated all of my kind of where I want to go and see. And I can change my itinerary according to how I...
Because I remember when I was in high school in America, and I had Bhutanese friends, and the only way for me to go to Bhutan was, I think, through an official invitation from a Bhutanese national, and they had to sort of sponsor my stay and stuff like that. So it's more open now.
Yes,
okay.
I would say so.
Before it was impossible to go in here. Okay, wow.
It's a beautiful country.
So tell us more about that, and obviously Thailand too.
Bhutan, I was obsessed with Buddhist art and the mastery and the number of years they spent doing it. I literally spent half a day just scouting around art shops to compare brushstrokes to brushstrokes and minerals, colors or acrylic colors, and my tour guide was like, it's interesting how you shop, and I'm like, I'm not shopping, I'm admiring their work, you know. And eventually, yes, I did buy something, but when you first start out drawings, all of the lines are still quite static, and you need to sketch out. You're so scared of ruining something you've made that is good, and then it becomes very clunky and it doesn't flow as nicely. And I went into one of these shops in Paro in Bhutan, and I was amazed by how fluid the brushstrokes were, and the way he just drew all the patterns, and it just like it came to him so naturally. And I know that in order to achieve this, he must have spent at least 20 years of doing the same thing over and over again. And I hope it was because he enjoyed the process, and I wanted to meet him in the studio. And they kindly enough to invite me into their studio, which is like a tiny house. And they were working on big projects for a new Buddhist school in the east of Bhutan. And I got a chance to look at their working condition, how their art is like, when you imagine a fine art studio, you imagine, what is it called? The thing that holds the paintings?
A frame?
The word is
you mean like the...
Yeah.
The wooden thingy where you hold a painting...
Easel. An easel.
Okay.
An easel. Yes. And you imagine that, and you imagine, models sitting, and people painting from fruits and etc. But none of it was like that when I went to the studio. Everything, because they were painting spiritual characters. Everything was from either their education experience back in the school, and what they're told how these characters should look like, and then intertwined with their own creativity in terms of colors, in terms of how the feel they want it to look and feel like. Everything was from imagination, basically, which is so different from how the Western art that I've seen have been. When it comes to abstract art, I would say a lot of imagination and personal experience went to these paintings, but I wouldn't say imagination. So that was a cool experience. I got to meet them, spoke to them about how long they've been doing this for, and I've met 3 artists there, and they have been working together since university times, and it's been 25 years that they've started this. Because he has mastered his work, he won this award allocated by the king to paint things for the new Buddhist school
Mm.
in the east of Bhutan. And I asked him, are you bored of painting the same characters, the same creatures all the time? I think it would be rude to give an answer otherwise than no. I'm not bored.
Mm.
But I think in the future, he said that he promised to, when he surpassed 40, that he would start doing more things that explore his creativity.
Mm.
So I'm looking forward to see more of his work. And he's very willing to teach this kind of mastery.
Yeah.
To
So he's an
younger
artist,
generations.
but also a monk.
No, he was an artist, but he went to a monastery to study art.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is the best art school in Bhutan. And yeah, it's a monastery. And another school that was interesting in Bhutan was an astrological school. People learn to read destinies.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why you were asking him about destiny. Yeah.
And so people believe when you're born, according to the signs and the stars, and this is your destiny, and you just play out your destiny. You can pick and choose when things come to you, but at the end of the day, you have a destiny. And when I explore,
And no matter what you do, your destiny will remain the same.
yes,
You
it's
can't
like you're
change your
destined to have a
destiny.
good life this life, or you're destined to have a
Really?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
That generic? I thought it was going to be quite specific. No. Oh, so you're not going to have a good life. It's going to be a painful, a dreadful life, and that is your destiny. Yes, master.
Because in Buddhism, they believe that there are like 6 different what's called, it's called the wheel of life, and 6 different I don't know, not scenarios, but places that a soul can belong in this life, and they said that we're in the human forms. And there's like titans, there's goddess, there's hungry ghosts, there's hell, there's etc., etc. And because they believe in reincarnation, and so I think, yeah, that was interesting to think about from the Bhutan trip.
Wow. How long were you in Bhutan for?
5 days.
5 days.
5, 6 days.
As mountainous as I believe it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It probably is the hardest place to drive, I would imagine.
The cliffs and
Yeah, and it's very steep. And every day I keep repeating to my driver, I entrust you with my life and my being. I entrust you with my destiny. If you crash, well, you know.
You know, Bhutan was regarded as the happiest country for a long time. I mean, that's obviously, it's not. I don't think it means that much, but I think that if an average person in a country does believe that they are happy, and I think that's very important. Because I don't think many Koreans feel that way. But I think that's usually an outcome, a byproduct of a society being quite high pressure. And sometimes for countries to experience a miracle, economic miracle, or really a steep growth, I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and without that pressure, you can't really have that success. And I think that's the case for Korea. Obviously not as simple as that, but that's a big part of it. I felt like, and I had many Bhutanese friends, and for what I experienced with them was that their life in Bhutan sounded very fruitful and simple. They did approach life in the simplest and the most beautiful way, from the roots, the family, the food, the environment.
It's good that you brought that up. One of the reasons why I chose Bhutan was because of this index, of the happiness index.
Sure.
I was wondering that whether people were happy because they have a simple life and they choose a simple life, or people are happy because they don't know what is out there, what is achievable, what is possible.
Yeah.
And I wanted to find an answer for myself. And when I was in Bhutan, I read this book in the bookstore from a governor of a state of small place in Bhutan, and he said Bhutanese are lazy people.
Who said that?
This governor. I need to.
Bhutanese person.
Yeah, Bhutanese person are lazy people.
Okay.
We don't work as many hours as other nationalities. And I thought, okay, so maybe it's not just me who have this question. Other people would have the same question too. And also, he addressed this problem. Not, it wasn't a problem. It was an interesting story that, Bhutan, they grow potatoes and they sell it to India. And Indians take that potato, peel them, make chips, and sell back to Bhutan for much, much more. And what's the difference? The difference is labor. And I think people who prefer this simpler lifestyle, they maybe would like to stay in Bhutan and stay closer to family. But a lot of people go abroad, like your friends who end up, going international for studies. Many young people in Bhutan now also do the same thing. And I think partially people do choose the simpler lifestyle for.
Just gonna pour a little bit. Yeah.
I think that's why I also want to believe it's a choice.
Well, it might be a combination of both the simple, beautiful life, and also at the same time maybe the lack of a little bit of being isolated from the outside world. I wonder whether, and ever since Bhutan has been opening up its borders more for the tourists and more for their neighbors, whether that index has been changing. I think sometimes more I think
Maybe
more
it's a lack
expectations
maybe it's the
you
lack
might
of
have.
oxygen up in the mountains. You're always floaty and you're always
A
happy.
slight bit of highness. Well, yeah, that's it's like more you eat, obviously more used to you're going to get in terms of more food coming through your body, and you need more each time sometimes. Yeah. So
But highly recommend you should, if you have a chance to visit. Very
For sure.
peaceful.
Thailand, is that the first time you've been to Thailand, or?
No, it wasn't my first time either. I went last time also with my family, but this time with Thailand, I went for a volunteering trip.
Yeah. It's like quite a different opposite energy from Bhutan, I would anticipate.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Thailand was a lot of hard work. If I signed up for this construction project, where we went and helped build schools or renew schools, and because I have a graphic design background, and I love painting, so they thought, okay, painting on the computers and painting on the walls are the same thing. So I went and painted walls at schools and drew kind of like cartoon characters of seafood with English name next to them, so the kids can learn, oh, this is the Thai name and this is the English name to these animals. It was a lot of work because it was direct under sunlight, and at noon at 12, and like I was up in a ladder like painting walls 2 meters high up, and it was hard labor, but I've never slept so well afterwards.
I'm telling you, I've never slept as well as I have in the Marine Corps. Man, I mean,
I think you
lights off,
energy.
and then it's wake up in the morning.
And you repeat it over
beautiful
again.
it's
Yes,
beautiful.
That's the routine you needed.
And then now it's like, it takes me 2-3 hours to fall asleep. It's man, it's just that Marine Corps, military is a simple life. Simple. Yes, it's high pressure, high stress, but it's different kind of stress and pressure from living in a society, in a competitive society. And yeah, the simple life, it benefited me health-wise so much. such a high quality of sleep. Allergies gone, despite all the pressure and hard work. My brain was clear because my brain wasn't busy. I've never slept as well as I have in the Marines.
Do you think that with all of the worries you have, because we're doing labor, but it just in our brain in loops, you know?
Oh.
And in Marine Corps, or when I was in Thailand,
Corps. Not corpse. not Marine Corps.
Corps.
Hopefully
Sorry.
not. That's what actually Koreans say when they were training with Korean Marines training with the U.S. Marines. The U.S. Marines were always correcting the Korean Marines for saying, Marine Corps. Whoa, corpse means dead body. Corps.
Corp, I said not corpse, but corp.
Core. You just said core.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but I meant like corpus and corporation.
Yeah, sure. Not Marine Incorporation.
That's funny, but I've lost track of my thought.
Would you consider yourself more a designer or an artist?
I want to be a designer, but I think I'm an artist. Because as a designer, you have, other people needs, and then you design something to serve a purpose. As an artist, you feed your own emotion. You kind of bring your own experience to the world, and that hopefully would help other people to feel something, to cure something in their soul, and to feel related that they're not the only one experiencing this thing, or trauma, or happiness, or I don't know, enlightenment, or whatever the art is about.
What to you is the most valuable form of art?
Most valuable form of art to me.
To you.
Is anything that makes me feel something. I think nowadays attention span is so short. You watch something and you just move on. Something that makes you linger, I think that's quite precious. Because time is so limited now, and there's so many stimulations, that why this piece? Why am I lingering here instead of the next one and the next one and the next one, scrolling? But other people might think otherwise, because Sotheby's definitely not gonna like the same.
Next.
Yes.
Next.
Last time, as soon as least time possible, highest amount of money offered. So yeah, how about you?
You know that scene in Ratatouille, where have you watched Ratatouille, where the critic takes a bite of ratatouille, and it's like
Got him back home.
going back home, and like something like that, I guess. It's like one of those Harry Potter, you know that Harry Potter spell that helps you fend off the black ghost looking things. It's like you have to get to the very inner part of your memories to bring something that is like the brightest.
That's your Tai Chi, I see.
Yeah. And with that that's the only way to actually do the spell, right? So something like that, something that a form of art that triggers that sort of that inner that core energy chi, the
found
spell
it ever?
Or the ratatouille moment, taking you back somewhere. And it could take you somewhere you haven't even experienced. It can take you forward. It could take you in multiple dimensions, but something like that, the ratatouille moment. Have I experienced an art like that? Actually, it's not art. It was an historic artifact. During my service in the Marines, I went to the War Museum in Korea, and I saw a flag from the early 1900s, a flag of the Republic of Korea, drenched in the blood of the independence fighters. That hit me really hard. I think that's the longest I've ever lingered in front of something. It's not a piece of art, you know. You didn't curate that. You didn't create that art. It's the history itself that is it's history, but it was framed. It was put on a wall, like you would find it in an art exhibition. And that was real blood of my ancestors. I would say that was something that I recall most profoundly, although it may not be a piece of art. Yeah.
I think it is a piece of art. I think it doesn't have to be made by an artist to be a piece of art. As you said, it was made by history. I think I'm from the country where how, union was played out, because North and South Vietnam were two different countries, and I think it's not good for me to speak about it and like my perspective of who is the winner.
Where were you born in Vietnam?
I was born in Ho Chi Minh City, so from the south, at the south. But my family, they fought for the Communist Party. One of my grandfather was a lieutenant, and from my great grandfather, sorry, and then from my grandmom's side, most people sacrificed themselves during the war, and my great grandmom was shot in the leg, and she was disabled for majority of her life. And I was reading the book. There's a book called The Winning Side, by a Harvard fellow, about his perspective on the war. And he said it's basically saying that the people who won the war wasn't the Communist Party or the Northern people. It's actually the Southern side, where they brought in a different way of living, a different perspective. There was a story, something about people from the North moved in and thought the toilet was a place for you to wash vegetables, and they were using that to wash vegetables because they didn't have it before. So little stories like that. And it was interesting, and I refrained speaking of, history, the past, my perspective on it, because it's not really welcomed currently in my country. And if you say things that are in conflict with what the government believes, you can be put into jail, you can be shut down on Facebook, you can be, etc., etc. So it's not a topic that I tend to discuss with many people, or even in the family. There's been different in perspectives, because my grandfather, he was working for the Communist Party, and I was educated in the West, so I live in the democratic country, where there's parties fighting each other to get votes and to be elected. And he grew up in a country where there's only one party, either you're in or you're out. And I was asking him, do you not want to have a choice? Do you not want to have freedom of speech, and etc.? And that is going back to the simple life, that is the simple life. You don't need to have so many thoughts, you don't need to have so many perspectives. If you have a good life, this is how you should live. And we were talking a bit about graphic design, and it was really funny because I told him, Granddad, I'm going to be a graphic designer. And he said, what does that mean? And I'm like, that means that I'll be designing things and visual things. And he's like, but what does that mean? Are you gonna design propaganda? Are you gonna paint propaganda? Because that's what graphic design is. They call themselves, Vietnam is a socialist republic, I think. That's on my passport. I should know, but yes. And even, you know, like the same skills, graphic design is not political. It's just a passion. It's just a skill. When it's applied to a country like Vietnam, it can be just propaganda paintings, you know. And I think many people have many perspectives and opinions on how this should be and that should be. I don't. I used to feel very strongly about how things should be and how history should play out, and this is fair and that is unfair. But that made me very tired. Like, because I feel like you have a lot of passion when you talk about it. You want to fight for it, and you have a why to do that. But you can't do it alone. You need to convince many people to feel the same, or you need to have it's like you share the same culture, share the same perspective. I hope you won't feel too tired, because it's always constant going in your brain instead of you can't do much to change it.
We were talking about Vietnam. Can you tell us about your upbringing, your childhood? Where were you born? Where were you raised?
So I was born in Ho Chi Minh City in the south of Vietnam, or people call it Saigon, the old name. And then I moved to a small province in the middle highlands of Vietnam called Con Tum. That's where my parents live. When my mom gave birth to me, she just finished med school. So that's why she was in Ho Chi Minh City to do training. And so after a few months, we moved back home. I grew up there. I went to kindergarten there, 2 years of primary schools there. And I went to a state school for primary. And every morning we would wear a red little scarf, like a comrade scarf. And we would wave to the flag and sing the anthem every Monday. After that we do the Vietnamese style of Tai Chi exercise before we start class. Class was super early, like 6:30 I was ready out the door. And we were studying until like 5 p.m. And then after that, to fulfill my role being a good daughter, after that I did calligraphy classes, and then piano classes, and then dance classes. It was nonstop. It was go.
How old were you at this point?
5, 6?
No.
Yeah. I could read when I was 4. I was in kindergarten and I was already finishing P1, like primary 1 textbooks.
Crazy.
Can you hear okay?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I moved in to live with my auntie and uncle in Ho Chi Minh City to pursue a betterment for education. Because in Con Tum, where the province that I spent my childhood at, they didn't have many options for schools. And so my aunt took me in and I went to a private school in Ho Chi Minh City. That's changed a lot in my identity as a person, because no more red scarf, no more singing the anthems. People were just wearing normal clothing. It was, I think, green and orange as the top and the bottom. It was hideous colors. Before in state school, everyone needs to wear a white blouse and blue trousers and a red scarf. And we were studying English for half a day. Like everything, all the subjects in English and all the subjects in Vietnamese, half a day.
You're still, what, 6, 7?
Yeah, 7, 8. Yes. So that's changed a lot in terms of what do I believe in? Why did I sing the anthem? Did I believe in singing the anthem? Did I believe in waving at the flags? Because the Vietnamese flag, the star in the middle represents the race of our people. And the red of the flag represents blood. And
communist roots.
Yes. And after moving to private school, none of these kids ever done that before. They were like, what's that? Why would you do that? And then after primary 5, I moved to a different school that was run by Taiwanese people.
This is still in Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah, this is still in Ho Chi Minh City, but I think they put a lot of investment into a district in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh, called District 7. That's actually where most Koreans now live in Vietnam.
District 7.
Yeah, district. It's like the Hunger Game.
Yeah.
So we shall start. And it's the first, I think at that time when I went, it was the first Microsoft credited school in the whole of the country, because it was non-profit and they was very good in delivering the teaching. And then that is a new set of uniform, something more similar to the old state school uniform that I had, but now it's a bow, but it's a blue bow, and I'm like, but why is it a blue bow, not a red bow? You know, this whole thing start questioning. So I suppose I start to question color at a very young age. And even so, fast forward after the Taiwanese non-profit school, I moved to the UK.
How old were you?
12. I was 12.
Where in the UK?
To Newcastle.
Can you tell us about that journey coming from Vietnam to the UK, Newcastle initially, and then Scotland? And that wasn't the only transition. You were moving away from your birth family, and then you were now living with your aunt and uncle. Can you tell us about that experience as a whole?
I think the whole experience, it's strange. I think that would be the word for it. Because, you know, when you grow in a family or in a society, there's a culture aspect to it. And when my biological parents, they have a different family culture, I would say, or the way they speak, the way they talk, the way they walk. And you know, when people say, oh, you're so much like your father, or you said you're so much like your great grandfather. I found it hard to think, who am I most like in the family, you know, because I was a mixture of many things. And initially, I think I have a bit of confusion, a lot of confusion in me, of like, okay, what is good, what is bad, who I should be and who I should not be. But now I feel grateful for the experience, because I've seen more, instead of, okay, when you grow in one family only, you have one family drama, one family highs of happiness and sadness. And when you have two sets, you double that. The variety is more. So you also reach really high highs, and you sometimes emotion, you reach really low lows. And I think as a young age, I managed to balance emotion quite well through this experience.
How was it culturally, going from Vietnam to the UK?
Tough, very different.
What made it the most challenging? What made it most challenging?
I lived in a very, very beautiful house in Ho Chi Minh City.
Quick question: so some people call it Saigon, some people call it Ho Chi Minh City. I think Saigon was more of a southern name, right?
Yes.
So in Vietnam, it is frowned upon to call it Saigon now. You got to call it Ho Chi Minh City. That is the more official name now.
People still call it Saigon because it's easier.
Okay.
But I don't think it's appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah. And I still call it Saigon when I speak to my parents, but I don't know why. When I speak to friends in the West, I call it Ho Chi Minh City, because, you know, they can pinpoint on the map that is where it is. Saigon doesn't exist on the map anymore.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you have like an airport code, you know, Incheon is, ICN.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, the airport for Ho Chi Minh City is still Saigon.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
SGN.
I know.
Yeah. You can say whatever you want.
Anyways, Ho Chi Minh City, lovely home, great environment.
Then I moved to Newcastle, and it was a tiny apartment where it was only like one floor. Because here, you know, blocks of flats. Each family has one floor, not the whole house. Well, it depends on where you live. But when we came, we kind of didn't know very much about, like, you know, where to find a nice place in Newcastle and etc. etc. It was still comfortable life though, but at the expense of my aunt's career. So she is a very, very much a business woman who is a go-getter. And now when we moved to Newcastle, she, you know, started to stay at home and help us with the housework. And gradually she founded a nail shop, and she started employing people. And through that experience, I learned from her, you know, how to make graphics, what to order, how to design the interior of a shop. I started to follow her in the weekend and see what she does. She teach me how to give like hand lotion massage, how to paint nails, and it was great because the kids were so happy after I finished their nails. They're like, oh look, like I have snowman, I have Olaf on my fingers. And I think some people might perceive that as a simple life, but that was, you know, that the height of happiness is equal or even sometimes higher than what you could achieve when you're not living the simple life. So the experience was taught me a lot.
What about school?
School-wise,
friends.
I had have many friends in Newcastle through this class. So when you're an international student and join a school, they will allocate you to an English helping assistant teacher. And in that school they had 2 people, and they have a specific room for this teaching. But we as in me and my friends tend to go there for emotional support more than, you know, maths or English support. And we would spend lunch there, we would eat together, and I now have a great friend, Ko Tien-ri, and I met him 11 years ago now, 12 years ago, when I first came to Newcastle. And there were some racist remarks of, you know, calling ching chong or whatever, and bullies who were making statements that were not nice, kids to kids. But it was weird that they were also international students, or their parents were international and then they were born here. And I thought that was very strange, because if you were in the same situation, why would you want to bring down someone in the same situation as you? But the friends I had were amazing, and they were very protective and kind. Always, you know, shout back or always say something back. And I think I found shelter in that English support class. And I still keep in touch with the people, like still can keep in touch with the teacher. She's Ukrainian, and she's trying to, because of the war, she's now trying to help her family coming over to the UK. And we still meet up in Newcastle sometimes when I visit. Yeah.
How's the experience going to Scotland from England?
It wasn't a change that I would have liked if I could choose back then. Because I, you know, after so many changes, I was finally settling into somewhere new and have, you know, friends again and comfortable with my grades and etc. St. Andrews, the building itself was so historical, and I always felt so proud walking into the school every morning. It's like, oh, I'm going to Hogwarts, because the establishment itself was built so long ago. And friends-wise, there was only two other Asian people that I could see in the schoolyard. And one of them kindly came and made introduction of herself, and her friend is like, hello.
Hi, one of your kind.
Yeah. And they assigned me a buddy when I first came to St. Andrews, but they, it was hard to just go, oh, you now is allocated to this friend group now. And you don't make friends like that. You make friends through your similarities. And appearance-wise, I think is the easiest similarity that you could see, when you first join a school or meet someone. So then I started to have a new friend group, and then at Madras, the art department was had a lot more investment, and there were more teachers, there were more style that I could learn and pursue. So it turned out to be a good thing for my development. But initially, I was very against moving to Scotland and to a new school.
Just because of the change, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nothing personal to Scotland.
No, nothing personal to Scotland.
We have a final closing question. If you had to choose one dish to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I am currently obsessed with Spanish anchovies.
Okay.
And I've been eating Spanish anchovies probably almost every day.
You're just gonna have anchovies?
Since I came back. You said one dish,
Yeah.
Yeah. Since I came back to the UK.
You will have like mercury problems in your blood.
I know. I need to stop.
And you come from Vietnam and you chose anchovies. I mean, no offense to anchovies.
Vietnam has amazing anchovies, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you just anchovies?
Just tiny anchovies.
You're just gonna eat that?
No,
That's
you stir fry it with like fish sauce and stuff, and
No, but you said Spanish anchovies. Spanish anchovies is garlic and anchovies and olive oil and salt, and then you're just eating that.
Yeah.
There's no turning back, so that's all you're gonna eat. You're the first person that said non-Asian food, and not only that, you chose like one fish, not with
simple
like
life.
Okay.
Simple life.
No offense to anchovies. I mean, I appreciate anchovies.
Okay, please stop broadcasting this to vegan and vegetarian people. Disclaimers.
I mean, look, if you want to have tofu for the rest of your life, be my guest. But
it's addictive. Have you tried?
Tofu?
No, Spanish anchovies.
Anchovies, yes, of course. Portugal has anchovies too, but there are better. I'd say there's better seafood out there than just anchovies. Anchovies are super important for creating a base stock in Korean cuisine.
They have natural MSG, and I'm allergic to MSG.
Okay, well, good luck. You chose Spanish anchovies, so you're gonna have mercury problems, and you're gonna also run into that issue with MSG. So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Chi Vo, the Vietnamese anchovy eater.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.